Okay. And I have my Elena in here.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so welcome to class this morning. We're going to have a conversation about Native American religion and culture. I asked everybody to come up with 3 questions for your participation paper for today. Please take notes on those papers as your questions are answered, and then you can turn them in at the end. That'll be your way of getting your points for today. So to start, we'll have Kelsey introduce herself and tell us a little about where you're from, the tribal affiliation, things like that.
Okay, so I'm really excited to be here. I was honored that Mark had even asked me to come. So I'm Kelsey Iron Shield. I am from the Turtle Mountains. That's a reservation. I'm sure you're probably aware of where that is. I see some of you are shaking your heads. So I am part of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. I am born and raised on my reservation and also was an educator on the reservation for about 8 years. I was also part of our first master's level program at our tribal college, our tribal community college, which is a huge deal. Hopefully they add on to that as well. And just the background of my education. So I'm actually a proud product of my tribal college. I received my bachelor's of science there, majoring in elementary education. And then from there, like I said, taught at one of our local schools. And while I was teaching, I was also working towards getting my master's degree in special education. And quite literally, once I got done with that, I jumped right into my doctoral program at the University of North Dakota. I'm a mother of 4, and my children have ties to MHA, which is the 3 affiliated tribes, and also they are also Lakota. So lots to learn there. And culturally, we are very, very different. So like I said, I have a ton to learn. But yeah, I'm just excited to be here and hopefully answer your questions. I asked Connie to be in with me because this is very, very meaningful work. So I wanted to be sure that you guys were learning in a good and respectful way. And that was really important to me. So that's why I invited her. And she's actually one of my mom's best friends also. So it's very special for me to invite her. And I know she's very knowledgeable and yeah.
Very good. Connie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. So would you mind introducing yourself a little bit, where you're from, those kinds of things?
Sure. So my name is Connie Baker. I work here at Turtle Mountain Community Schools. I have been employed here for going on my 26th year. Before I started with the school, I worked at North Dakota Job Service for 15 years, and that's where I met and worked with Kelsey's mom, Carla. And so I am married. My husband's name is Luke. We have 1 child, a son. He lives out in the Partial area. He's married, living on a farm. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren, 1 soon to be a teenager. I too, born and raised here in Belcourt, enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. I'm also a product of our Turtle Mountain College here, where I received 2 degrees. Always told myself I was going to move on from that and got employed here at the school. And I don't want to say stuck. But I opted out of college, which to this day, I feel like I cheated myself. And so, but every day is a learning experience here at the school. Always a good foundation to just continuing on with education. I come from a family, there's 5 of us. I have an older brother and sister and a younger brother and sister. And I always say I'm just simple old me. Nothing fancy, nothing huge, just me. I've invited a special guest to be here with me today, and he's one of our elders here, and I see Kelsey smiling. One of our elders here in the community who is very knowledgeable about culture and religion. And he's coming around the corner, and I hope you don't mind, but he is filled with a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I'd also like to have him introduce himself because he's going to be quite the treat for you today. So I'm just going to turn this over. Can you see us or can you only hear us?
We can only hear you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
there's like a little camera. It might have a little red mark. So you might have to just click that and that'll give you, do you see it?
Yes, I
do.
do.
Yeah.
I do. Now do you
There
see?
we go. Yeah.
So, I call him Fatty.
It sounds, it's sounds
nickname.
crazy for you guys to hear, but actually it's just a nickname that we've all, it's a term of endearment, I think. Yeah.
And I didn't even prepare Fatty for this. I was just like, hey, Fatty, can you come and help me out with this? I'm a little bit nervous. And you know what? He always shows up for me. He never fails me. So I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Oh, wait, before that, he actually baptized my youngest son. So I just want to say that.
Is this your daughter?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're
Oh,
in a
yeah.
class in Bismarck.
Okay.
And we're talking about religion and culture today.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, now I recognize you. So my name is Francis Davis. My real name is Francis. And I've been in this community practically all my life. And I was ordained a deacon back in, about 94, I think it was. But I retired now. I'm a retired deacon. So, and Connie just kind of I don't know if she overstated my professionalism. No, I'm just here to answer questions, whatever you like I said, if I can.
And maybe just to add on to that introduction, we've also participated in ceremony as well. So not only are we born, baptized into the Catholic family, we also practice our culture. So
That's a great point, and I
Yeah.
agree with that.
And we'll get probably further down into that as we get into it. Let me introduce myself to Connie and Francis as well. What was the nickname?
Fatty.
Fatty. That's what I thought I heard.
Fatty.
And I've heard that nickname. So and my class will get to hear more of this on Wednesday. I'm going to talk about some of my personal perspectives. But my name is Mark Voigt. I'm the professor of religion in America here at Bismarck State College. I've actually been a pastor in the Church of God for about 20 years now. And we actually did ministry up in Dunseith at Dunseith Church of God, which is behind the Davis Car Wash. It's a little white church behind the Davis Car Wash. It's now a daycare. I believe they sold it to a daycare, but that's where we were at. And we did lots of kids ministry all over the reservation and youth ministry. We were up there from 2014 till about 2021 or 22, I think. I'm also married. I have 3 kids, and a beautiful grandson and a granddaughter on the way. And yeah, and so that's just a little snippet about me and who I am and why I'm here teaching this class. But yeah, so let's get things rolling with some of the questions. I'm going to ask one. We have a couple students that weren't able to make it today, and one did send me some of their questions. And so first would actually be a great tie-in to what you guys were just talking about, being Catholic, but also practicing Native American religion or culture. So this person's question is it possible to mix Native American traditions and cultures with other religions? For example, I met a member of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints yesterday who is Native American. I'm curious about this dynamic between two different beliefs, how different that looks.
Okay, I'll just personally, I feel like I'm still trying to navigate that myself. So, it's just a big learning experience for me, but I'm sure that they could probably answer. They have more experience in that, but right now I'm still navigating that myself, so.
So just clarification of the question, is can you practice culture and be Catholic or Lutheran or
Right.
Episcopal? Is that the question?
Yeah, like how does that
Maybe
look, or is it, their exact question was, is it possible to mix Native American traditions and cultures with other religions?
Well, that's a good question. You want to answer that, Connie? You can try to answer that.
Okay, so I'm just going to like keep it really simple. And I'll give you an example. I guess I've stressed a couple of different times that I was born and raised into the Catholic Church. My mother is a devout practicing Catholic, as my late father was. My grandparents, same thing. On my father's side, my grandparents just never missed mass. On my mother's side, now on that way, my grandmother was not a practicing Catholic, but she practiced a way of life. Can you mix the two? In my mind and in my heart, yes, you can. So I asked an elder way back in the day when I was trying to find my way in culture, because I didn't know any better. I wasn't raised with culture. It was church, So here's was the response that he gave me. Never change who you are or how you were, what you were born into. Use that as a foundation. Okay. So if you're Catholic, you're Catholic. If you're Lutheran, you're Lutheran. And if you find your way with culture, you just there's no difference. There's a balance. There's a balance there. And so just because I'm Catholic and I practice ceremony doesn't mean there's one over the other. Okay. And so for me, I have found a balance. If I want to go to church, I'm going to go to church. If I want to sit in the sweat lodge, I'm going to do that. And so there are wonderful things as being Catholic and also as being Native American and practicing culture. So everything is about prayer. There is no difference. There's no different God, no different higher power, whether you're Catholic or you're whatever your denomination is, there's no difference. Okay. So there's beautiful things, practicing, the culture, the ceremonies, and there's beautiful things being baptized as a Catholic. So for me, if you can find that balance, there is no difference, but you just keep adding to, building like who you are and what you are and where you come from. And I always say this, I will never have a debate over my spirituality. I never will. And sometimes we do that as people, we want to say, well, my way is better than your way. And right. It's what makes you feel good. It's what comes from your heart and is in your heart. If, Fatty?
Good, yeah. I'd just like to interject with what Connie's talking about, her personal, what she handles things personally. But as a church, as Latter-day Saints, Mormon, Catholic, you know, I don't think you could like promote like sacred objects like the pipe in the church. You know, they probably wouldn't recognize that, or that wouldn't be appreciated. But it's the same thing with the traditional people. Like you couldn't go in a sweat lodge and then allow people to bring the Eucharist in there, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
There's such a thing as enculturation. That with the Catholic Church has an enculturation, and every year they celebrate a Tecawitha conference. That means that the church allows like smudging. You can smudge in the church. Those type of things, you know, the basic things. But like I say, I think most churches, you know, would have a hard time, you know, promoting ceremonial things in the church, just as the traditional people were allowing the church to come in there and, you know, do their thing in their ceremonies. That
Very
kind
good.
of thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna move things along so we can try to get some of the questions through. So who would like to ask a question first?
I can ask one.
Okay, go for it.
What are some common misconceptions about Native spirituality that you often encounter?
Common misconceptions.
Did you guys hear that?
What did she said? There were some common misconceptions about
Yeah.
Native culture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
she's asking what are some common misconceptions?
Well, you want to answer that, Connie?
Okay, so how about this? Give me an example. Like, give me an example what you're thinking about misconceptions.
Like things that people typically believe about your spirituality, but they're not actually a reality in your community.
Oh, can I answer this one?
Yes, you're one of the special speakers.
Sorry, well, these are like very respected people in my community, so I'm just like happy that they're here and helping me. So, one thing that I have heard is, people believe that it is witchcraft. I've actually heard that people believe that Native practices are witchcraft, which is very hurtful for me to hear. So I've definitely had that conversation with people. People believe that it doesn't come from a good place. So those are very much common misconceptions that I've heard of. Anybody have any to add to that?
I would, yeah, I'd like to just make a point. When you meet a traditional person, a real traditional person, that's a person that doesn't know anything but tradition. A guy named Orville Lookinghorse is one of those people. There's many more, but I'm just thinking of Orville Lookinghorse. He's a sacred pipe keeper. And if I, you know, as a Catholic, if we went to Orville Lookinghorse and told him about Jesus walked on water, he'd have a hard time with that. You know, like, or like Lazarus was raised from the dead. He came out of the tomb and he died, but Jesus brought him back to life. A traditional person would say, well, they'd probably think the same things, misconception, I think. But there's things like that we have in common. And one of the things that is smudging. You take smudging and incense, they're kind of the same thing. They mean the same thing. So I think there's misconceptions on both sides of the fence. You know, but if there was anything this, like Connie said this, or you said it, like voodooism, you know, that's there might be some in the culture, but it's not common. No.
So, just for clarification, so you've mentioned smudging a couple of times. Some of our students may not know what the idea is behind smudging and what it is, if someone could explain that.
I almost brought a shell. I packed a shell, but I didn't pack my sage. My son, he actually smudges every morning before a game. And it's just a way to, in some way to, what I think is like cleanse yourself, bless yourself. So you have sage in a shell, and then we just go like this, and it's just, you pray as you're smudging yourself. And so my son, like I said, that's just the, oh, sorry. Oh, there it is. There's some sage. Okay, but yeah, that's, they could add to it, but that's just how I think of it. And my husband, I can't believe I mentioned my husband, he's the best thing ever, but he has educated me so much. He grew up kind of similar to me, and I grew up just similar to Connie. She has very devout parents, and I do. Even now, my parents are coming to watch my son's game today, but not before they go to adoration this morning. So yeah, it's just a good way to start off your week. My husband does it. He tries to do it every Sunday. If he misses Sunday, he does it Monday, and he smudges our entire home. And just, he feels like it will refresh our week, start it off in a good way. If we've had like a yucky week, he'll smudge in the middle of the week, and he's like, okay, let's cleanse our home, and he'll open the windows. And it's just, for me, it really helps mentally and spiritually, and I really do feel like it just sets us off in a good way. But they could add on to that.
How about the drum? How about maybe some of you have heard people singing at the drum. And what we do is that, if you don't know, you may wonder, what the heck are they singing, or what are they doing? And so I feel like there's a misconception of, whenever you hear the drum, you might feel the drum, and some get really emotional, when they hear the drum. But probably the thing that I would want to share with this class today is to let you know that every time you hear the drum, and you might hear a word or two, they're singing, it's like praying out loud. It's like praying, singing and praying at the same time. And there's so many songs that are sung, with the drum, the big drum, the hand drum. Everything is about the Creator. Everything is about a good way of life. Everything is about honor, and giving thanks, for our way of life, giving thanks for a beautiful way of life, giving thanks for your health, your spirituality, your mentality, your physical being, all those kinds of things. So sometimes I think there's a misconception about what are they doing, what are they saying, and not to, I don't know how people feel about this, but it's like watching the Super Bowl last night and listening to, the halftime entertainment, and it was in Spanish, it was in a different language. But if we could understand those words or the message that he was portraying, it might have a whole different meaning, to us. So just letting you know that there is a big misconception about when you do hear the drum and you hear people singing, like, what is it? And I really do believe that if we understood what they were saying, it would mean a whole different thing. So just know that when you hear that drum, and if you could understand what they were saying, sometimes it's just a feeling. And so when you get that feeling, it's not a bad feeling, it's a good feeling. Some people get a lot of emotion when they hear the drum, or they hear that's, the singing. So just know there's a misconception when we hear that, just like listening in church. And what is that? What did they used to sing?
Latin?
Latin. We didn't know what they were saying because we didn't understand that language, right? And so, but we know it's beautiful. We know it's something spiritual.
Yeah, very good. Another question from students.
You guys should know Native people are very long-winded too.
Sorry.
How
To
big
add
was
on
that?
to that, what is the significance of your like dancing and not, I don't know what you would call it, like
The
the,
regalia.
yeah.
What is the significance
Of the powwow?
of your
That's
regalia?
just powwow socializing. It's a social dance. It's just they come together and they dance. It's not a ceremony. It's just the celebration of the dance. Compared to a dance now is a ceremony, a sacred ceremony. Is that
But as far as like the regalia, there are, I mean, oh my gosh, I could have invited so many people too, because there's so many parts of this that I'm still learning about. But as far as regalia and like certain dances, it's a lot of it is symbolizing nature, right? And our connection with nature. That's how I always understood it, you know, like the fancy shawl and those are all forms of prayer too. That's all.
Correct.
And that because I'm like, this is what I've learned, so I hope that that aligns. But
So-
like I said, yeah.
If you've ever seen anyone, if you've ever attended a powwow or seen it, what they're wearing is very personal and spiritual. A lot of the regalia that you will see, some of it is handed down from generations way before. Some of it is about a dream. They had a dream that's how they wanted to, look, that was how there's so much that goes into the regalia that they're wearing. I'm not a powwow dancer. And like Kelsey said, that's like a whole category by itself. It would be interesting if you did invite somebody who, dances, and there's so many different categories to powwow. There's fancy shawl, there's traditional, there's jingle dress. Like for an example, like that jingle dress that came by way of a dream, and why someone should have that specific wear, and it's healing for the people. There's like healing from, cancers, healing from diabetes, healing from, so they definitely have significant stories to share about what they wear. And all of it is meaningful, very meaningful. So just so you know that when you see it, it's just not like you walked into a store and, hey, I'm going to pick that purple dress with those jingles. Everything has to do with, there's a significance, and it's prayerful.
Have you, excuse me, Kelsey, if you hear of an author named Anton
I'm not
Troyer?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a book, and the book is called Anything You Want to Know About an Indian But We're Afraid to Ask.
Oh, yes.
That's a good read, because there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of stuff in there that your students are probably wondering,
Right.
those questions are in there.
Yeah, I think he even came to speak in Bismarck this past summer. So.
Yeah.
Another question.
This one is kind of broad, but like, how does the influence of traditions from like older generations and like others, like you had mentioned, influence younger generations?
That's a good one. Hey, Connie, I think this would be a great question for you because of the drum group you're part of, and how many in the old tradition might not see that. That might be, now it's more evolved, right? That's enough.
So, I don't know where you want me to start and stop with that, but I belong to a women's drum group here in the Turtle Mountains. There's a lot of controversy over the women with hand drums in our community, but more so positive and supportive than none. But we do have some that just think it's not a good deal. This circle of women never would ever dream of sitting at a big drum and singing. It's just about the women singing. So this lady started this group, and I would say there was about 14 women that joined. To date, there are 2 women hand drum groups. For me, I just wanted to join, and I wanted to learn the songs so I could take them into ceremony and to be able to sing the songs there. That's how I started. Well, it evolved into something different. And so what happened is we were invited to sing at a public event, all nervous, didn't know where this was going to go. And then at that event, it was recorded, and then it was placed on Facebook, and it started a lot. But what it also did is there was a lot of storytelling that came out as well. And what we found out is that the Ojibwe women actually used to sing back in the day. There's a beautiful, beautiful story about there was a battle, and one of the Ojibwe women, to hide and protect herself, went underwater and actually used I don't know what you would call it. There was
like a straw, long straw.
And she went underwater, and actually it was a long period of time. And while she was underwater, she had this vision, this dream, and it was about a song, and it was a woman singing a song. And so, it's quite a long story, so I'll just leave it there. But what we also found out is that the Ojibwe women back in the day actually used to, they were the singers, they were the drummers, not at a big drum, but at a hand drum. They sang lullabies, they sang honor songs for their men. And so we're starting to learn those, but I didn't grow up that way, and we never heard of that. And so so that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, I never dreamt that I would be singing in public. I thought it was for ceremony only. But the beautiful thing is when you hear these women sing, when you hear the songs, it's very touching, and so yeah, that's where we're at with it.
I just thought that was a good example because and you're right, Connie, there was more acceptance and love than controversy. But I just, when I did see the controversy, I just thought that we just need to really find a way from the old way. And there's been such a shift in just even back home, that the youth are getting so knowledgeable, and they're just hungry. They're hungry for, more of it, and they're getting more involved, and they're putting on these events. And sometimes, elders can sometimes be a little hesitant to welcome that or even have changes. So, and I mean, change can be scary. So I understand that, but I think it's great. For me personally, I think it's beautiful that we're having that shift right now. And I mean, don't you guys agree that that's kind of happening probably all over, but especially on a reservation? There's a lot of youth that are.
Change is hard, especially for elders. The way they did things back then, it's hard to. In most tribes, their traditions are different. They're different, values. But specifically the traditional old elders, they're not up for change, and that, I think that's what Connie's experiencing now about women drumming. Back the old tradition is men had their role, women had their role, and we
Right.
stayed in there. We stuck to those roles. That's kind of like a traditional thing. I'll give you one example. We were at a funeral not long ago, and they honored a headdress for some men, but they also gave one to a woman. She was the chairman of a Spirit Lake tribe. Well, they're Dakota, and I was with a Lakota guy, and he said, our Lakotas in our community, they don't honor women with headdresses. And I didn't know that, but in their tradition, they didn't do that. So
Yeah.
you have
I think
It's-
I'm sorry about that, buddy. I think another thing that has changed a lot is, I know when Connie was talking about how, her experience, like it went on social media and became a thing, and that's different too, because that just made me think of a time I invited some elders to say some prayers with our students before we were doing some statewide testing. And one of the elders is a really good close friend with my dad, and as he was singing, and it was so beautiful, so I picked up my phone and I recorded it. And later on, he respectfully came up to me and was like, basically, don't show that or delete it. And he was very respectful. So there are definitely things that, like I said, I'm still learning. And he just said this particular song is something that it's so sacred. I don't want it to be, it's just meant for people in the room, and it's not meant to be shared, on social media or whatever else. So making sure that we're respectful in that way too, so.
Yeah, very good. Anybody else have a question?
I'll go.
Yep.
How does your Native American heritage believe, or what are some of the stories that have been passed down regarding when someone passes? Where do they go? Is it a journey or afterlife? How does your culture explain how this journey or afterlife is understood, and how are your beliefs reflected in your ceremonies or tradition?
Big one.
That's a great question.
About the afterlife, yeah. And I obviously have done some Native American funerals. I've, heard some of this, but yeah. What is our thoughts about the afterlife?
Well, ours is, spirit world. You ever heard that term spirit world? There's Star Nation. You ever hear of Star Nation? Okay, people that would like the Lakotas talk about Star Nation a lot. And most tribes will know what the difference between spirit world and heaven. They're not exactly the same as the churches versus native, probably not, but both are. when you practice both, spirit world and Star Nation and heaven's probably the same journey. That's my take.
So that's exactly what I believe too. I think, we might call it something different, but we all mean the same thing. I believe living here on earth, being a good relative, being forgiving, being kind, just being that good person, whether I'm walking this way of life or living in the church, I think that that's all really meaningful. And where we go after this life, I believe it's someplace really beautiful, no matter what we call it. I believe that there is a God, there is a creator, and we're going to meet that spirit. We're going to meet that relative of ours when we go on this journey before when we leave this earth. And I believe that it's someplace really beautiful. I just lost a brother, and we had a very toxic relationship. And one of my dad's last wishes before he left this earth is he wanted me and my brother to have a relationship. He wanted us to forgive one another. And I think we were finding it hard to do that, but in the end, we got to meet, make that peace with one another. And then we had a conversation, and he asked me, he said, I wonder what it looks like over there, is what he said. And I had just recently had a visit out to the glacier, out in Montana earlier that summer. And for some reason, I thought of my brother, and there was this voice. It's kind of hard to explain, is that my brother was going to be, going there soon. And this was before I really knew how sick he was. And so I shared that with him. I just told him, I said, I think it's going to be really like a really beautiful place. And I told him, I said, I asked him if he was afraid, and he didn't say yes and he didn't say no. But what I said is, you're going to see Dad. How do I know that? I don't know that. I just know my faith. I said, you're going to see Dad. And when you see him, I said, you go with him, because he'll take you to where you need to go. And he nodded his head, and we named some other relatives at that time that have passed on. And being Catholic, being Native American, being whoever you are, I just believe that there is some place that we will go, whether we have a straight shot there or whatever it is, that there is a heaven, there is a spirit world, there is a star nation, and that when it's our time, we'll know.
Is there any cultural practices with the Chippewa when they bury their dead to enhance the journey or to quicken the journey? I know some of the funerals that I've done, when they go to eat, they prepare a plate for the deceased first, and they lay, a lot of times they'll lay that on the casket. And then even sometimes at family meals, they'll prepare a plate for somebody and put it on the counter and go, that's for Auntie so-and-so that has passed. I mean, is there any other types of ceremonies or traditions that the Turtle Mountain Chippewa practice for those loved ones that have passed away?
Yes, we have something that's called a spirit fire.
Oh, yeah.
And usually our spirit fire is when a relative passes on, we light the fire. And then the fire is for 4 days. So 4 days, 4 nights. And on the 4th day, we release it, like we're releasing the spirit. But during that 4 days is there's song, there's prayer, there's remembering the relative. It's our time to tell our relative that it's okay, that where they're going, that'll be okay. The fire is about the light, is so that we believe that they have 4 days of traveling, that their spirit travels for 4 days before they actually go home. They go to the spirit world. And so, yes, we're always honoring our relatives, both present and past, by a spirit plate. And so that spirit plate is a symbol of just feeding them and acknowledging them and having respect for them. So we do that.
Okay.
And
Who's next? Oh,
really one other thing I'd like to touch on, for a long period of time here in the Turtle Mountains, the people just didn't do practice a whole lot of their ceremonies, only because of, not to get started on this, but in 1978 is when we were actually allowed to start practicing our ceremonies. My husband graduated in 1979, so if you think about that wasn't all that long ago. But the reason why I bring that up is because in that long period of time where we weren't allowed to do those things, we lost a language. Some of us lost a way of life, and our identity, our identity was underground for a long period of time. And so today we have this revitalization of our language and our culture. So with our tribe, our schools, our college, our elders, we're bringing that back. We're finding our ceremonies. We're finding who we are. We're finding a sense of, just being proud of, who we are as Ojibwe, Turtle Mountain people here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. That our community is going above and beyond, to find our ceremonies and to find our elders who held, some of the stories and things like that too. So, but it's coming back, it's coming back, and it's alive and well here in the Turtle Mountains.
Do you have any questions from this side of the room at all?
How big is your class?
We have, well, 23 is the total. I think we have 21 today. Emma.
I'm slightly related. Do you feel represented well by your current government?
So her question is, do you feel confidently represented or do you feel represented by today's government?
It's gonna take a long time to answer there.
I think you know the answer.
No, I'll just say that.
Yeah.
No.
Is that too much of a hot button topic?
Probably a very deep conversation to have. But no, and I think also just going off of, what Connie was just talking about, we have a very unique relationship, I'll say, with our government. Regarding like the elders and their feeling towards religion sometimes can be a tough topic, and also towards education institutions itself. That's also tough for some people to talk about, just because I'm not sure how much you know about boarding schools, but Connie was just talking about how much of our language and our culture were lost because we were basically, they tended to wipe us out, basically. That's another reason I thought this conversation was so meaningful, and I'm so glad that they joined in, because it's just important for you guys to learn in a good, respectful way, and so that's what I'll say on that.
I can share that my mother is a product of boarding school. So she was in boarding school. Some people had a good experience in boarding school. Yeah. And some had a lot of trauma. And so I asked my mother one day, what was it like being in boarding school? And she actually stayed on the positive side, and she talked about like things that she learned, right. How, like sewing, she learned how to sew. She learned how to make bread, and it was things like that. But if you knew my mother is a very, quiet, peaceful person. Now I'm a product of a Catholic school. And so I can share my experience on, being a product of a Catholic school. Was it all bad? No. Was it disciplined? Very disciplined, very disciplined. And so, I could give it away and tell you how old I am, but I can just tell you that, when I went to school and there were rules, and if I didn't follow those rules, I was disciplined in school. And heaven forbid if I had to come home with a note on something that I broke a rule, but it was very disciplined, very. And back then they were allowed to give paddlings. They were allowed to do things. Now I've had this conversation with Fatty that, I went to school and graduated from St. Anne's Catholic School. Do I know what a paddling is there? I do. And I want to share with you why I got paddled. There was a boy that was teasing me in the classroom. And I took my paper and I crushed it up and I threw it at him. And when I did that, guess what? Sister Elma walked in. And let's just say it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. I will never throw a paper at anybody again in the room. Just to say, but there are relatives, there are, some other families that some of them didn't come home. And so, again, it's probably not the class to go that deep, but I know Fatty went to boarding school.
Same one her mom went to, but just something I'd like to pass on maybe to your class is that no matter our history, Native American history, think about this. We've been here, well, we can say from the beginning of our history. We're still here. How did we survive what we survived? Whatever was put on us. We had to have a way of survival. How did we survive? I had this conversation with my daughter. We're still here. And we're still surviving, and we'll survive no matter what happens. She had input. It had to have something to do with our spirituality. It had to play a part in our survival. Our relationship with Creator, God, has something to do with our surviving what we survived. All the things that we survived, boarding schools, alcoholism, smallpox, blankets, you go through it, and somehow we came out of it. We survived. And we're still, what we can, we're still trying to, like we're talking about that today, we're still trying to pass this down to our children. That you are who you are. You're Native American. Always know that. And try to teach them survival, to survive. Because we survived. Our ancestors survived. How did we survive? Well, there's ways and means, and if we just hang on, like we hang on to our traditions, our way of life, our culture, it plays a big part in survival, our surviving. So
I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to shoot for somebody else down this way. I think Elena asked a question, but Grady, yes.
Does Native American religion differ between tribes a lot, or is it all pretty similar?
Like a culture.
Different.
Oh, go ahead, buddy.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just in my experience, with, it differs a lot, I think, with my husband, he is Lakota, so we'll talk about it a lot, our naming ceremonies are different. He said that, like, when they get their spirit name, it has to come from, a family member, so they dig around and they find that's how they get their name. And so, I mean, I can't think of more at the top of my head, but that's just one that comes to my mind because we had that conversation, but we'll always talk about that. And, I mean, it's beautiful regardless, but I always like listening to him because, like I said, his mom did teach him Catholic ways, but, his dad brought him along when he was like 3-4 years old to ceremonies. So he knows that way of life, and he just taught me a lot. So, but you guys can go ahead and add to that.
So from tribe to tribe, our ceremonies are different. I'll just give you one quick example. So we have the medicine wheel. Okay, so depending on what tribe you come from, the medicine wheel might look different, but the colors are all the same. Okay, so our sweat lodges, some are facing the east, some are facing the west, but they mean the same. All ceremonies, they might run them a little bit different, but they all have the same meaning. Okay, it doesn't mean one one is right and one is wrong. It's just how we do things. Same thing like in the church, making the sign of the cross, those kinds of things. So yes, they're all different. They're all very different. They all come with their own stories and their own meanings, but the purpose, the meaning is all the same. Just as in the church, we have a lot of symbolic in the ceremonies as we do in the church, but they all pretty much mean the same. When we smudge, we're cleansing ourselves. When we make the sign of the cross with the holy water in the church, it's the same thing.
Anything to close us out, Patty?
What's that?
Anything to close us out? Any final thoughts?
No, just encourage, and like what in your with your classwork is, I'd encourage, if you have a chance to participate, like in a powwow, do it. They're not just for Native alone. If you ever get a chance to go to a Tekawitha conference, go to one. You'll learn a lot about enculturation. And things like the simple things, don't be afraid. There is a lot of misconceptions about Native practices, especially like the powwow. Heck, you can even dance. They have intertribal. Everybody dances.
And in my closing, I would just say, I think we all just need to be good relatives, be respectful of each other, be kind to one another. And if it bothers you that much, what another religion or what another race is doing, maybe find some humility and just ask, like, hey, why do you do that? Or what's the meaning? I think it's more respectful to, just go up to somebody and ask them versus, making fun of them. But I think the biggest thing is just if we could find peace in our own heart with each other and just appreciate one another. We're all here for a good reason and for a purpose. And we're not here to be different from one another. We're not here to be, high on the totem pole. We're here to have balance and just to appreciate one another. So take care of yourself and take care of your class and just be kind and respectful relative. I think that's what we all ask for.
Any final thoughts, Kelsey?
They did a good job. I was gonna say the same thing, just to, when we say be a good relative, that just means to be good to one another and be welcoming, be warm, and that's it.
Well, thank you, Connie and Patty, for joining us today. I certainly missed my time up in the Turtle Mountains and in Dunseith. I have a lot of they used to be younger kids that are now turning into adults themselves, and I miss them dearly, and hope to see some of them again soon. They are like family. They are very much like relatives, and but thank you for joining us. I certainly
Thank you for inviting me, and then I got to invite them. So
yeah, and then so if there's any questions that anybody did not get answered today, please put a star by that. And then I might actually send an email to Connie and Kelsey and just have them follow up with any unanswered questions so we can have a even broader discussion than what we've already had. But thank you again, and that will be it for class today.
thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
For
Yes, absolutely.